If I was the Rothschild family or the Illuminati and I was to map out a 100-year plan, I'd be like, let's make the country so fat and so sick off of all of this artificial garbage. And then let's wait 3 generations and then let's put products into market that uses medication to bring them back to healthy. But we're going to continue to feed them garbage so that they continue to need our medication. And then they're just screwed for the rest of their lives. Then we'll give them 50-year mortgages and they'll be our I don't want to use the S word. We'll own them for their entire life cycle. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the WealthWise podcast. I am your co-host Roger Bryan, and that's
Richard Lorenzen.
Today we are going to be talking about Richard, what was it called? Oh, prestige bias. You have to say that and put your pinky up when you say it. Prestige bias. And then we're also going to be talking about what's going on in the news, the markets, the first non-tech trillion-dollar company, the first company to double its value from $2 trillion to $4 trillion in under 6 months. We're going to be talking about some of the biggest names in the game, and it's going to be really exciting. So grab your V8 energy. Thank you for not being our sponsor, and sit back and enjoy the ride. So Richard, prestige bias. This is coming from the anxious generation. I've been talking about this for like the last 2 episodes. I haven't had a ton of time to read, but I got to read a little bit last night while Claire and Carter were doing their swim classes. And that really stuck with me. Before we talk about the topic, though, I had this thought. Media companies, the social media companies, have designed their algorithms to be addictive. From a product development standpoint, that's the entire point, right? How much time can they get you to spend using their tool?
Yep.
Psychologists, mental health experts have all now statistically proven since the early 2010s that this has been absolutely destructive. Zoom in, zoom out. Absolutely destructive on society, yet we're not doing anything about it. In fact, we're going in the wrong direction now, allowing kids on social media as early as 13, which is some of the most formidable years for them. So before we get into the psychology of how to make our podcast just as addictive as social media for those that are 18 years old and older, let's talk a little bit about societal's head in the sand over the destructive nature of social media on our freaking kids. What are we going to do about this?
Well, what do you think that is? Is it just because it's such a new technology that it's like in the 40s everybody smoked, right? Because people didn't really understand how bad smoking was. You could maybe
I'm going to throw you a curveball, and I know you're going to agree. They knew how bad it was. There was just so much money involved that everybody at the higher levels was making that money. So they're like, hey, let's do this and make as much money as we can for as long as we can. Damned be the little guy. And let's just keep going about it until they can't fight us, right? What are they going to do? Storm our buildings? Maybe we should.
Are we talking about social media?
I'm talking about all of it. Like,
okay.
They knew smoking was bad for you for 40 or 50 years before they did anything about it. Are we going to have to watch 2 generations of kids have their mental health decimated before as a country we're like, hey, maybe there's a problem here?
Well, then, do you think that this is a regulatory issue?
I do think at this point it's a regulatory issue because they are only self-regulating 5 years after the first times their hands were slapped. And their solution to the problem is, okay, we'll put checks and balances in place to make sure that you're not younger than 13. The problem is that's the most destructive age, 13 to 15 for young kids.
Yep.
Should social media, should you be required to be 16? Should you be required to be 18? Do you need to graduate high school before we let you become dumber?
I think that's a good point. Because I think there is a good argument to have around maybe restricting the same way that you have to be, what do you have to be to buy cigarettes, 18 or 21? Or
I think it's 21 now.
Maybe we do the same thing with social media. I think there's a good argument you can make there for that. It would be a huge political. The last thing anybody in America wants is more regulation, right? So it's going to become a political football. But I think there's a good logical argument there for limited.
You're right that anything like we're free, We want our freedom. We don't care how much it hurts us. Let us be free. 13-year-olds can't make their own effing decisions about what's best for them. I think anything under the age of 18, I'm okay with regulation. And that's probably not something that I would have said just a few years ago, but you have kids. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to help them navigate this. And I'm like, there is no successful navigation. There really isn't. Because if you don't let them do it, right, which would still probably be my choice, they become ostracized from their societal circles. If you do let them do it, it damages their mental health. Either way, they're F.
I don't think there's any, like, I can't see a clear benefit of being on social media under 18 years old. I get that there's, some element of social interaction and belonging.
It's not real social interaction. It's all fake.
Sure. I mean, that like I said, I can't see a real benefit to being on social media at that young of an age.
Yeah, I'm going to put my flag in the ground and say that social media, you should not be allowed to be on there until 18. I'm just going to say that that's what I think is best for society. It was interesting. I think it was last week, the CEO of Roblox was on CNBC, and they were talking about their new security safeguards that use AI and facial recognition to protect children under the age of 13 from coming onto the Roblox platform, because it has the same damaging effects as social media. And the CNBC, the person interviewing, was like, well, so you're saying now that you're capturing pictures of kids to store online, and you're hoping that your AI is accurate using facial elements to determine their age. Still, any kid could lie or have their friends sit down in front of them. There's no parental involvement. There's no actual registration of age. Just, hey, here's a picture of me. Do you think I'm 13? No? Okay, well, let me put on a hat. It's insanity to me.
Well, that starts to get into the how, right? How would you create? Because obviously you can, to me, like, the first place you would start is to create, let's say, an Instagram account, right? You need to upload like a copy of a photo ID that verifies that you're over 18. But what's to stop you from logging into your parents' verified Instagram account and using that the same way that you might use, your own?
No, I mean, that's the big thing. There's nothing, right? It's about access, right?
So,
if your kids have
right.
access to a computer that you use to do everything, then they have access to everything.
Right. So in that case, I don't know. So what do you do? How can you? Is there a
That's a tough
way
one. You should see the looks that Claire gets at grocery stores when I let her check out using my debit card and she knows my PIN and she's 7 years old. They're like, how does she know your PIN? I'm like, because I gave it to her. Maybe that's not a good idea, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's also because when you regulate something, there needs to be some sort of enforcement, which means there needs to be some sort of penalty for when the regulation is, when it's violated, right? When the law is violated. So, are you going to penalize the social media platform, or are you going to penalize the parent, right?
Well, I think in the case that where you're talking about, if a child accesses it through a parent's account, it's the parent's fault.
The parents,
but there's no real grounds for penalty because the operating system doesn't know who's on the other end using it, right?
Right.
Unless you're going to get to, and you could, right, scan my face to let me log in on everything.
Mm-hmm. So the parent,
try getting that one to pass the right-wing gun holders.
Right. Well, in that case, the parent bears the responsibility, though. So
they do, and I'm okay with that. If you're a shitty parent, you're going to have screwed up kids, and that's your fault.
It would almost be like, if you have kids and like your kids are illegally drinking in your house, right? You would be liable, right, as a parent. So it's kind of the same thing.
All right. Well, now let's transition this conversation into the psychology of making content addictive for those that are 18 and plus. The reason that I want to talk about this is we've been spending a lot of time recently, and it's not necessarily on rebranding. It's about honing in our vision, honing in our voice. And we've come a long ways with the rebranding, with the messaging, the audience, the content. But it still comes down to we're just two guys sitting here talking, right? Yeah. Neither of us, we'll both admit to this, neither of us are lifestyle guys. I've joked before where my book collection could buy 2 of your Lamborghinis, but you're still never going to see me buy one, right? I think it's a terrible, terrible idea to spend money like that.
Yep.
But we're not really that sexy. We're
just
not really that exciting or that cool to the audience out there.
We're just not cool. Yeah, we're not fun. Like I probably wouldn't even know how to drive a Lamborghini.
Do you know how to drive a stick shift actually?
No.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
my Volvo XC90 basically drives itself. So
Man, I grew up driving stick shifts, so okay. I was like, how do you not? And a lot of them are automatics now, anyways. So,
there you go.
Irregardless of that point, the prestige bias in social media or in content consumption states that while information is commoditized, I said that maybe backwards in the past, where anything that we say can be found anywhere if you know where to go look for it. If you're just listening to the podcast, you'll probably pick up some nuggets because you're probably not thinking about the random garbage that we talk about. But the prestige bias is, and we chatted about this yesterday via text message, like accomplishing great things in the past is one thing. But what story are you telling? What journey are you on today that people can buy into? And I feel like most of my financial decision making, most of the deal making that I'm trying to do is happening in the background. I'm trying to think about how I can maybe bring some of these deals to the forefront. We've talked about some of the efforts to buy real estate. I actually just got off with the city about a historical property that I'm looking at now that I'd love to rehab, but it's got a whole bunch of different things wrong with it. We can bring some real estate deals to the table and people can watch how we go through them.
True.
I know we've talked about starting a fund, but there's like steps that you need to take before then to even get that rolling, like getting a couple more properties under the belt. What are we going to do to show people that we actually know what we're doing and know how to make compounding money?
I think it also has to go back to, again, what ultimately the community or our product is going to be about, because analyzing real estate deals is only interesting if the product ultimately or the community has something to do with real estate.
No, that's you're spot on, and that's important. Then you take yourself and let's break that into three parts, right? So if we're talking about doing the real estate deal, that's compounding already earned income, right? So you could take that further down the food chain to the prerequisite of that, which for both of us was starting and growing an agency of some type or coaching consulting business in the marketing space, whether it be local leads or public relations. Like you could go earlier into the cycle of how do you make 6 figures, 7 figures at high margin, right? Most people would never believe the margins that you have on your business, but they probably wouldn't understand the amount of effort that you have to put in to get that either.
Right.
And the sustainability over decades of time. The scalability of, I started 7 companies that have done $1 million in less than a year and 2 that have done it in less than 6 months. A lot of people might want to learn about that. So now you're going down cycle into how did you make the money? Then you're going up cycle to how do you compound the money? And then you go full cycle into wealth transfer and legacy, right? So I was looking at it holistically and who is the audience amongst those 3 steps.
So I think the process, like the unique kind of process that we bring to the table is let's say 2 steps, right? Number 1, how to build a high earning career or business. Like really primarily self-employed people, but maybe this could also be applied somewhere else. But part 1 is how to build a high income. And then number 2 is how to turn that high income into long-term wealth, right? Because there's a difference between having a lot of income and actually building wealth. That's what we. I think
there's 3 parts to that though. You did it in 2. There is the high income, then there's kind of like the compound income, which is the actions that you take today, and then there's the long-term wealth.
Well, what are the steps in the long-term wealth part?
The long-term wealth is the trusts, it's the cash flow, it's the retirement, the long-term thinking. Like when I think about, like if I'm doing a real estate deal today and I'm looking at the cap rate, I'm shooting for a 10% cap rate. I'm thinking about over the next 10 to 20 years, how is the underlying asset going to grow in value? what is my cash flow going to be from that? But
Yep.
that is like part of today's wealth planning. The long-term wealth is it going to go into a trust?
Oh, okay. So you're looking at asset protection basically in like a separate bucket.
Multi-generational, how these act like if
Okay.
turning the income or compounding the income is my wealth,
Right.
long-term wealth is the kids' wealth.
Got it. I think that makes sense. And people like things in sets of three too.
You
So we
always
have,
got to be odd, right?
yeah, step one is how to build a high income. So we can talk about all the skills because when you think about like how both of us have made our money, we both made our money by going into a niche where as self and as entrepreneurs into a niche where we had a high cash flow business, and then we took the cash flow from the business and we invested it, and that's how we built it into sustainable wealth. So like we both follow the same process. The first one, the first bucket is the high income. So we can talk about the skills that go into, what I think this is applicable to whether you're starting your own business or like you're in sales working for somebody else's business. It's the same thing. But what are the
I mean, it's
mindset?
doctors, lawyers, it's engineers, it's everybody
Right.
that, yeah.
Exactly. Like what are the mindsets? The what was the other thing I was going to say? Mindsets, processes, habits that you need to form to become a high income earner. Like
I like that. And
that's
then
the
you earn
foundation.
that money. And then again, I give, is it Kiana triple compounding?
Yeah, that's kind of the same thing, I guess, when you think about it. Like
It
that's
is. No, and I want to give her credit. If this has been my mantra since 2012, she branded it, right? Blowing like the stuff that I see her doing with that brand now is super impressive, but that's really what it is. You earn that money and then you've got to compound it today, right? You've either got to invest it in assets that grow in value or in assets that produce cash flow, and that cash flow becomes a whole nother bucket that you can invest to do other things.
right. Exactly. And
And
that
then
would
you've got to
include,
structure it.
well, that middle step can also include um paying off any debt. Basically it's like getting your balance sheet right. So that's investing, and also, whatever stuff you have in your past, if you have credit card debt, you have, whatever, making sure that everything is set up well for today.
And you know what's so interesting on the most basic level, and this is something that's funny, in my 20s and 30s, I never paid attention to budgeting. Right? I was having a conversation with a business owner today who has a lot of blue collar, um, hourly workers in their business, and they're dealing with a lot of the financial pressures of their team members is rolling back on the company's management with like attendance, performance, emotional and mental stability. And really, it all comes down to that not one of these individuals that are having problems has any sense or semblance of a budget, right? They're living paycheck to paycheck. If one little thing goes wrong, the car doesn't work, the refrigerator breaks, their whole world gets thrown upside down. Now, high income, high cash flow individuals tend to not have to deal with those problems. So we're not trying to solve the problem of every person on the planet, no matter how much money they make, because a lot of those problems aren't solvable because it requires them to change.
High income solves a lot of problems though.
Yeah, high income does solve that's 20s and 30s. I never had to worry about a budget. Then you have kids and you start doing everything and you're like, oh, I've got to save for 485 different things now. I probably should pay a little bit better attention.
That's why the three-part process I think works so well though too, because when you first start out and you first start making a lot of money, especially if you also
That's where
happen
the
to
biggest
be
mistakes are made about the long term.
exactly, and especially when you combine that with being in your early 20s when that happens, I could say the same thing for myself. I was, really good at making money my whole life, and so in my early 20s, I didn't really care about what my net worth was or what I was saving because I just assumed I could always just keep making as much as I want.
Oh, I have
Um,
flashbacks to Washington, D.C. Oh.
right. And so you spend a lot of money, you make a lot of money, and you're right that if you're a high earner though, you don't really need a budget in that sense, right? And high income does solve a lot of problems, so things are great. But then after a while, you start to realize, wow, do I want to be on this hamster wheel forever where I just have to work and work and work and work? Or do I want to start building, an independent wealth that works for me? so that I don't need to earn all of my money through earned income.
I
And
thought it was interesting. Travis Sago, which is probably one of the smartest, I don't know if you call him a copywriter or if you just want to generalize him as a marketer.
he's a
His
great
trans,
copywriter.
what's that?
He's a great copywriter.
He's a
Yeah.
great copywriter.
Yep.
But he's transitioned into, did you see his school communities are all now around the FIRE movement?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, this is a very recent thing with some of the new school communities. And I know it's a buy-in to what is the biggest branded movement in financial independence today, right? If you can build a product around FIRE, you're going to attract the people that have capabilities to do that. It's a brilliant move. I just thought it was interesting to see that transition or that adaptation. Now, let me be frank, though. He could have made that move a year ago. I have very limited access to social media on purpose, and I may have just missed it. But he popped up, and I jumped in, and I'm like, oh, this is all about the FIRE movement now.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm looking for it right now. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You know, the
I
people.
sent you the school community to show his pricing model and his product organization.
I know, and I'm trying to find the text message now because I looked at it, but I didn't pay attention to the topic. But anyway, yeah. I mean, that's also feels like kind of the natural progression of a lot of people that are in the self-employed space, and maybe it's the same for Travis, maybe it's not, but um everybody in the self-employed space goes through those same kind of like that evolution of, well, you make a lot of money and then you realize you don't want to have to keep making a lot of money forever, and so you start thinking about building wealth. um and then suddenly your training products change from make money to building wealth.
So I think what you said is probably one of the most important elements of all of this is that there is known paths that most people take, and that often those paths are not shown to, right? I overcomplicated that. People in their 20s or 30s often miss the on ramp to FIRE, financial independence, retire early, meaning that they're making the money and they could be positioning themselves to get to that point in a short amount of time, but the excitement of all of that money leads to bad decisions that delays it. You delay it by 7 years, you've made it twice as hard because you've lost the compounding nature of that initial cash flow. And I'm speaking from experience on that. So
Starting even 5 years earlier in your 20s can make an
I'm going to go
exponential.
with the rule of 7 because it's adapted, right? It's
Yeah.
accepted.
Yeah.
So, right, if you figure this out at 28 versus 35, the amount of time that's going to take you to reach it is, in essence, going to be cut in half because you've already had a full compound cycle.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
it's true.
This
I
is
mean,
actually
yeah.
really good. I was like, I never know what's going to happen when we get on these calls. Are we going to get off after 50 minutes and go, what did we talk about?
I mean, if we can convince just a couple more people who are in their 20s who are making good money or about to start making good money to start a little bit earlier on building long-term wealth, it can make a big difference in their life, no
Huge.
doubt.
Absolutely huge.
Yeah. So I think so. Like going back to the kind of the framework, step one is build a high income. Step two is basically like we'll call it get your balance sheet right, which is like start investing into the right things. And then step three is after you've started to get some momentum from your investing, how do you protect it and turn it into generational wealth? And that goes to like, do you have the right structure in place? Do you have the right trusts or insurance policies, LLCs, whatever it is that makes sense for your situation? Do you have those things in place?
I like it. Generate a high income with high net margin, then compound that cash flow, and then turn it into long-term generational wealth. That is the WealthWise mantra, Richard. A
That
moment
it.
of silence for it. Oh, that wasn't silence. Sorry.
And I mean, that can even become a course. You know,
Oh no, it is. I mean, but it's also.
we
I
can build
agree.
a
Each
longer
one of
form.
those segments is a course that can be directly correlated to where the specific buyer is on their journey, but it also becomes a holistic vision or mission, right? Takes you through the whole cycle, then carries you through your entire life.
Yep, it's all of it.
Cool. Well, I guess we can jump off now, or do you want to talk about some news?
Okay.
All right. this has been a pretty crazy week. And give me a little bit of leeway on like whether it's been 7 days or 10 days. But in the last 6 months, Alphabet, Google, has gone from a $2 trillion company to pushing right up on that $4 trillion market cap. So like, it's cool to talk about a stock that has doubled in value in 6 months, right? But some people would be like, you know what? I got in on Beyond Meat and I had a 500% return in like 1 hour. But okay, that's great. They went from 20 million to 100 million or 20 million to 200 million. We're talking about a company, Alphabet. They went from $2 trillion in market cap to $4 trillion in market cap. And they're like, their train is just now taking off. Let's talk about what caused this and why Alphabet is probably still a good train to jump on.
Okay.
Have you been watching this one at all or know anything about their TPUs and all the stuff that they're doing internally?
I mean, they're in the news this morning because of their deal for chips. Who was it with?
Facebook.
Right, with Facebook, Meta.
Yeah, so what I was hearing today is Alphabet's TPUs could eat as much as 6% of Nvidia's market penetration over the next 12 to 24 months. It's one of the first signs of Nvidia's armor getting pierced by a US-based close known competitor, right? Everybody talks about what they could be doing in China or not doing in China that could affect Nvidia. But here, all of a sudden comes Alphabet, who's been making these chips for 10 years, and is like, we don't need Nvidia. And then Facebook's like, oh, we don't? I can do this for less money? Seriously? All right, cool, let's do it, right? So Google, 4 trillion, is 5 trillion next. Are we looking at another 20%? Actually, that'd be a 25% run up from here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't follow them that closely, but I follow Nvidia closely. And
I did buy both Nvidia and Alphabet in Claire's portfolio when I decided to jump into the AI cycle, which was a little late relative to some of the other stocks. But Alphabet's been a big carrier since then.
Everything I've been looking at the last few days leads me to think that Alphabet has a lot more room to run. So
what does that also say about Nvidia, though? Right? If one person jumps ship and if the margins are so good, aren't others going to?
I don't know enough about how competitive Google is in that space. We're just coming off the heels of the Nvidia earnings report last week,
which was great, by the way.
Yeah, and you have the CEO Huang saying that that their growth is still accelerating.
Yeah, and there's also saying that there's a 10-to-1 demand to supply ratio, which is unheard of. That they can't meet 10% of the demand right now.
Yep. And I mean, I just talked
that also gives a competitor a spot to jump in. If Google's like, hey, what about that other 90%, homie? Come on over here. My stuff's cheaper, but it's just as good. It's not. It's like the difference between inference and application, but
it's true. But I think Nvidia is a really good competitor. I think they're agile.
You don't think that this move by Google is it complementary? Is it parallel? But it's not contradictory, right? It's not going to. One doesn't have to lose for the other to win.
I don't think it's going to be the undoing of like Nvidia's growth story.
I don't disagree with you. I just wanted to see what you had to say on it. So
yeah, I don't think so. But it's worth noting that like the AI space overall, the growth, because we talk about like the AI bubble all the time and things like that. The growth rate of growth in that space is still accelerating. So which you wouldn't normally see in a bubble, which would lead me to think, like going back to Alphabet, like there's still plenty of pie to divvy up. Like I just talked to a client this morning, the investment bank, that they do a lot of stuff in the private market space in AI. And they're still seeing rapid accelerating growth of investors looking to get into these deals in the private market.
I don't know how many trillions of dollars are still sitting on the sidelines waiting to be brought into the market.
It's true. They see no sign of slowing down in terms of available capital with an appetite for getting into AI. They see no signs of slowing down. That was what they told me.
Yeah, so, the thing that I was looking at, that so many people have been waiting for the market to cool down And then it's just kept going higher and higher and higher, that now they're watching all of that profit missed. So it's not necessarily direct FOMO, but they are realizing that, right, if treasury notes are going to go down in value even slightly, then maybe that money has to be put in work in some way. Okay, I'm going to sidebar that. Did you sign up for a Webull account?
A what? A Webull? No, I didn't. How did that turn out for you?
So right out of the gate, I signed up for it. And I'm like, there's no way it does all of this. And then I kind of I couldn't figure out how to trade. It's interesting. Just like some of the crypto exchanges, you deposit into an FDIC bank account, and then you have to transfer that money into a specific style trading account. So that means you would have to transfer the money from the FDIC insured into the brokerage, or into the crypto, or into the options, or into the margins, or into the treasuries, or into the bonds accounts, right? They're not all coming off of one pile. You have to put the money into the individual unit. I don't know if that's a regulatory thing, but I have never seen, right, so many different options for me to invest, right? I can do stocks, ETFs, options, futures, predictive markets or events, bonds, money markets, cash management, crypto, or you can hire advisors directly through the app to invest for you. Now, what I'm really trying to do on this is I put $100 in, right? I was trying to I'm going to do a contest with myself. I want to find out how much margin or leverage I can get in this application, not because I want to trade on it, but I want to learn what's available in here, because I do feel like I am a Charles Schwab guy and a Coinbase guy. Yes, I've got hard wallets and things like that, but I have not really adapted to the new markets.
Yeah.
I was an early investor. I was a pre-IPO investor in T0, although that didn't turn out to be the best investment. So I've always believed in the modernization of markets. But man, this stuff is, I don't know if it'll come back. Look at all those different markets I've got to trade in.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, because I'm also like a traditional brokerage guy, I don't have any of these new accounts, but is Webull considered a broker dealer?
You would have to be in order to have stocks.
Right.
Yeah.
Have stocks.
So now I'm going to preface what I'm about to tell you is not recommended. It's not advice. And I don't have to do this because I actually do have the experience. But all of these margin and option accounts and things like that, you're self-declaring your capabilities. Do you have 3 or more years experience with this?
Right.
Do you have this? They're not I mean, I never put my social security number in here that I know of. I don't think
that's the part that interests me though, because KYC, right? So I
had to put some pretty detailed information in there, but when I put in my net worth, my annual income and things like that, I could have selected anything. More importantly, on the certifications of experience in order to use these high leverage, high risk accounts, Richard, anybody could check that they have the experience.
Not that you should, but yeah.
You should. Well, even I'll tell you this: I could have checked off level 5 options trading, like naked blinds and things like that. I didn't because I don't want access to them. I checked off level 3, where I felt comfortable doing transactions. But I could have picked 5, and they would have given me the highest, riskiest, access to the highest risk instruments on the planet without verifying anything.
But how would they not collect your social and be able to open a securities account?
I wonder.
Like that. To me, that's super interesting. Because if I were to go to E-Trade right now, or Charles Schwab, or any of them, right? I'm pretty sure, I'm almost certain that I would have to put in my social to verify that my name is what I say my name is, and all of that. Interesting. It's also interesting though. I wonder how they set up. You can buy crypto through Webull as well, right? And so, are they also a cryptocurrency exchange in addition to being a securities broker dealer, or?
Well, it's the same thing with their prediction markets, right?
And they have prediction markets as well?
Yeah, prediction markets are in here too. I'm approved for all of them because I said that I'm an expert on everything, which an expert in their eyes is 3 years of experience, right? I've run a venture fund for 8 years, and I've been investing for 27. So I did not have to lie on any of these things. It was the truth. But if you were 18 years old and checked that you had 3 years of experience in advanced margin options tradings, right? That's probably not accurate.
But how can they verify if you're 18 or not without your social security number, right? So that's what I'm getting at. Is like how do they KYC this? And then the prediction markets, technically the prediction markets, are those insurance like how is that market structured? I don't know enough about, I need to read up. But are those securities or no? Are they contracts? Like
I think they're considered what the generic term would be gambling, but what do they call sports betting? I think it's
but then
considered
do you need some kind of does the company need like some sort of a gambling license to
They
do that?
do, yeah, just the same as
So then
FanDuel or any of
is
that.
Webull both a licensed broker dealer and a licensed
Well, that's
casino? Like,
primarily why I think that all of those accounts are different and you can't run one central cash account on all of them. You have to transfer from your bank account with them into each individual asset or each
so
individual platform.
so Webull could just be a DBA, like a disregarded entity name, but on the back end they have multiple different businesses, like a broker dealer, a gaming company that are actually custodying the accounts. Could that be right?
Funny, I haven't even uploaded an ID. It says right here, valid identification, add. I never added it.
Have you bought anything yet?
I just transferred $100 from the cash account to the margin account, and I'm waiting for it to hit. I'm wondering if when I go to actually trade something, if maybe I'm going to get hit with
Yeah,
more
they may say that you
KYC.
can't complete the trade until you upload your ID or something like that. But did they give you any indication of how much margin you could get?
Not yet. I'm still playing around with this.
I wonder how that worked. Like, do they run a credit check for your margin pre-approval, or?
Don't know. I do know you can buy fractional stock. Like I'm about to click to buy 10% of one share of SPY,
That's
67
simple
bucks.
for them to set up because that's just like they hold the securities and
Well, I mean, this is all experiment, I guess. Terms and conditions.
let's see here.
No, I can confirm the order right now. And I swear I haven't even uploaded an ID yet. Something's just wrong here.
Securities trading is offered to self-directed customers by Webull Financial LLC, a broker-dealer registered with the SEC. Webull Financial LLC is a member of FINRA, SIPC, New York Stock Exchange,
Not at
NASDAQ,
all.
Evo. Yes, I mean that technically is right, and so they're also CFTC registered futures commission merchant, which means they can sell commodities. So technically, Webull is a broker dealer. Like that entity is the actual broker dealer. It's also the commodities broker. Um,
Oh, you know what? I just tried
and
to buy.
then advisory services are provided by Webull Advisors LLC. Webull Advisors LLC is an investment advisor registered with the SEC. So that's basically like an RIA. Trades in your Webull Advisors account are executed by Webull Financial LLC, the broker dealer.
I think the whole point of this is that the modernization of the financial markets is not coming. It's like I might even have missed the boat a little bit on how soon all this was available. What does this have to do with anything, right? I'm experimenting, I'm learning, I'm trying to help guide other people on this. But the ability to be on margin or to leverage, especially in the crypto side of the world, when I look at 1929 and we look at what caused that, which back then it was what I guess would you call it 9 to 10x margin on everything. You only had to put 10% down to buy
Mm-hmm.
whatever you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think there was that much leverage in the market. Then crypto deflated by 30% because of leverage. And I'm like, wow, I didn't like
Yeah, but
nothing surprised. I mean, I've seen 84% drops in crypto before. So 30% is nothing. I don't even blink at it. But seeing how much leverage was in the market to cause that unwind was kind of surprising.
it's like Warren Buffett always says, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked.
Yeah. Well, okay, talk about putting on a new bathing suit. Berkshire Hathaway, first major tech investment. They bought into Alphabet. They're already up 17%.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
You
could this
never
be?
saw Warren do that. You knew that's the new CEO, right?
Exactly. Yeah, my understanding is that Greg Abel's already making like a lot of the decisions and running a lot of the day-to-day stuff. So like, could this be a new chapter for Berkshire Hathaway getting into, because besides Apple, they don't really touch the tech space. Um,
Well, it's kind of hard to say besides Apple, which is, of course, one of the Mag 7. They don't get in the tech space, but Apple's really been their only play that I can remember in like modern tech history.
I think Berkshire's up like 40% already on Google.
No, 17.
17%.
17% as of this afternoon. Richard, you should really do your research before we get on our calls. No, they actually heard it on on CNBC when I was driving over.
Barron says they're up 40%.
What? CNBC's wrong? That never happens.
Maybe did they get some sort of a special deal on the stock?
Interesting.
I gotta log into Barron's to read the full article, but I will get to the bottom of it.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, let's talk about the next one. Eli Lilly becomes the first trillion-dollar healthcare company. And healthcare has really been battered. You've got multiple things happening. You've got the federal government pushing for lower prescription prices. You've got the regulatory environment for approval of new medications or new treatments, also coupled with the failure of certain treatments to make it to market. You've got international competition, and then you've got the pressure against the health insurers as the government tries to shore up the outrageous healthcare costs in the United States. But still, Eli Lilly breaking through and becoming the first trillion-dollar healthcare company. What is this all about? Well, weight loss and diabetes drugs, right? If I was the Rothschild family or the Illuminati and I was to map out a 100-year plan, I'd be like, let's make the country so fat and so sick off of all of this artificial garbage, and then let's wait 3 generations and then let's put products into market that uses medication to bring them back to healthy, but we're going to continue to feed them garbage so that they continue to need our medication, and then they're just screwed for the rest of their lives. Then we'll give them 50-year mortgages, and they'll be our I don't want to use the S word. We'll own them for their entire life cycle, right? It's brilliant, right? Where were we 100 years ago, and why didn't we come up with that plan?
That would have been a great plan.
What are you telling me? It's not actually what happened?
Are we becoming one of the conspiracy theory podcasts now?
Hey, well, that works really well, right? If you're listening, I've got a tinfoil hat in my garage.
Okay, so Berkshire bought Google at $225 a share. They're up 40%.
Why did they say 17? Huh?
Yeah. In Q3 when they made the purchase.
Nice. Cool. Good for them. Okay. That's huge. All right. So something that we've seen other companies do, and all the big tech companies in some way deal with the government, but I thought it was interesting that Amazon has now pledged $50 billion to build U.S. government AI data centers. And a lot of this has to do that Amazon has always been part of it was between them and Microsoft as the go-to for the U.S. government for cloud infrastructure. So it would make sense that they would be then going after the AI side of this. But $50 billion is a big number.
That is a big number. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really smart move in the long term, right? Like this is going to lead to a lot of recurring business for Amazon in the future, and they already have a close relationship with the federal government and other areas of AWS and others. So
if the demand's there, right, why not meet it?
Mm-hmm. It's going to add 1.3 gigawatts of capacity across new data centers.
One of the most interesting things that I've been doing, and it's probably one of those algorithmic things where I clicked on an article about this, now I'm getting fed a bunch of it, is all of the alternative methods that companies and countries are trying to find to meet the energy demands of the future. And some of them are so simplistic, right? Like you've got dam style turbines that have been used for, I don't know, 100+ years to generate electricity. being placed in oceans now on the ocean floor to use tides to generate electricity. I just think it's interesting. So I want to be careful how I say this one. I had one of those religious organizations knock on my front door.
Okay.
Right? Okay, I'm not going to say which one because I don't want to piss people off. But it was a husband and a wife. They knock on the front door, and it doesn't really make sense to most people, but like I'm in a rental property, so it's a house. So they obviously saw a car in the driveway, and they're like, hey, let's knock on the door. I'm sitting here trying to work, and I'm like, no one knocks on my door here. So I go and I answer it, and they're like, what are your thoughts on global warming, and how does your faith play into that? And my instant response was, there was another part of that. How do you think it's going to affect mankind in the future? I'm like, well, what's probably going to happen is we're going to get it all wrong. There's 8 billion of us. 7 billion of us will die, and the last billion will figure it out because that's what humans always do. We figure out how to survive, not all of us, but some of us, and then we repopulate and grow. And there was a moment of silence. And then the guy looked at me. He's like, is that what they're teaching you at your church? I'm like, no, we don't talk about this at church. And I closed the door. I'm like, because I had to work, right? But really that concept that human beings do tend to figure stuff out when their survival's at risk. That doesn't mean we should be destroying the planet. But if we've already done it, we need to figure out how to do what's coming next. And if anything is going to push us to figure out alternative methods to powering the future, it looks like AI is going to force us to figure that out.
I think so. There was an article I read recently about geoengineering. You familiar with that? For when it relates to climate change, which is
I'm familiar with geothermal, but not necessarily geoengineering.
So geoengineering is the idea of basically re-engineering the temperature of the Earth artificially to lower it. So, like one of those ideas is creating this aerosol that they can spray using airplanes into the atmosphere.
That's like a great idea.
That blocks out some of the heat from the sun. And there are other ideas too, like shielding the.
Aren't the airplanes already doing that? What are those white lines in the sky?
That's a whole other. But also putting mirrors on top of the glaciers to reflect the sunlight back into space is another one. So there are all these ideas that they're developing around, like
what is the carbon footprint of producing and moving all of those mirrors into place?
Well, that's a good question. I guess there's very minimal research that's been done around this because it's a very politically and scientifically loaded topic. But now there are a lot of institutions that are signing on to push for at least doing the research rather than, not necessarily deploying any of this, but doing the research to see what the feasibility of it would be. And AI could obviously play a role in developing some of that research, but it's interesting. You brought up climate change, so I just happened to read that this morning. I thought it was interesting. Engineering, there you go.
Interesting. I've heard the Chinese are already doing that.
Yeah, I heard something else too about another country. Maybe it was. I'm not going to name names, but I think there was another country that was doing some research around that as well.
You're not going to name names. What, you've got some type of government contract or something, and you're like, never mind. We'll move on. So here's what's super interesting. We've had kind of a rollover of the AI trade, not necessarily a bubble burst, but after the market lost $3 trillion in market cap from October through November 20th, like over a 30-day span, here's the problem. If you got out of the market because of that, thinking that there was more downside, the S&P then bounced back by $1.5 trillion in just 2 sessions, November 21st and 24th. So that's always the biggest problem, is like trying to catch a falling knife or trying to get out of the way of the knife if you don't want to catch it, right? If you're not in long term, you miss, like you could have rode down that $3 trillion, but then missed half of it coming back in just 2 trading days.
Just don't try to time the market. Time in the market is more important than timing the market.
Yep. Nope. That's a really good one.
Right. But speaking of price action, Bitcoin is still hovering in like the 86, 85 range. So I mean, there hasn't been a bounce.
Trying to push up, and it just keeps getting brought back down.
Yeah, there really hasn't been any kind of bounce.
We're back below a $3 trillion market cap in the crypto space, with Bitcoin hovering right around 86 right now. It has pushed the high 87s I guess it was actually
But
89 to open up 24 hours ago.
I would think about buying some more Bitcoin at those levels.
Well, now let's talk about it. You sent me that interview between Grant Cardone and Saylor. I
Yeah.
watched for like 10 minutes and then realized it was 2.5 hours long. And I'm like, I don't have time for this. But you watched a lot of it and you sent me some of the interesting numbers that he talked about. What were those?
Yeah, so I watched about 45 minutes an hour of it, and one of the points that Saylor made that I thought was interesting um, is buying Bitcoin. He believes, so we have to start with the foundation of like he believes that Bitcoin is going to continue to grow by at least 30% per year for for the foreseeable future. So he looks at buying Bitcoin right now as buying a company that is growing 30% per year, and you're buying it at a multiple of just one times revenue. And so from that perspective, Bitcoin at 85,000 or 100,000, he still sees a lot of room to run.
How can it be one times revenue? What revenue does Bitcoin? Is it
I
one
don't
times
yeah,
book value?
it wasn't clear to me how he gets that multiple or how he sees there being a multiple on Bitcoin. I don't know if he's calculating that based on the fact that there's a finite number of Bitcoin that can be mined, and so he's doing some fancy math
I like
based on
fancy
that.
math because I like Bitcoin.
Well, we should write to Michael Saylor and invite him on the show.
Oh,
But
let's do it. Let's do it.
yeah, but I don't know at these levels. I'm a buy. I think I'm a buyer of Bitcoin again.
I
Long.
said my number, and I said this, I think on the last call was about 78,000,
That
right?
was your last buy.
That would be where I would consider buying again because I do have a nervous state that we did well breaking through 90, right? The bottom didn't fall out, but I worry that breaking below 80, which I don't know if we're going to hit it, right? I would prefer that we never test that number, but that there would be a significant increase in the fear factor on Bitcoin if it broke below 80 and that there is no bottom after that, right? People can talk about the different metrics of the pre-price to the last halving high could be, which would put us back down to like at 53 or 52. I don't
Hmm.
know that I buy into that from here. But
But we haven't tested that level,
we haven't. We haven't.
and
We've had this nice little run up. And then
and
there's
we may not.
always the Trump wild card, right?
Right.
All things considered, with since the funding for the US government came in, unless I missed it, Trump's been a little quiet, which makes me nervous.
Quiet on Bitcoin or quiet in general?
Just quiet in general. Are they concentrating on Ukraine getting split up right now? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, the Ukraine thing seems to be consuming a lot of bandwidth. Also, Scott Bessent this morning on CNBC said that it's possible Trump may name a new Fed chair before Christmas. So that's kind of going on as well. But yeah, it has been more quiet. But also, I think about like, you have an opportunity to buy Bitcoin at a 30% discount when we're just about a year into an administration that we know is very supportive and bullish on Bitcoin. Um, I think there's more catalyst there to the upside than downside.
I don't disagree. I would love for the US government to step up their buying and talk about it. Okay. The last one that I had on my list this week, which as a longtime user of this platform, I was very, now I don't blame the platform, but Adobe has agreed to buy SEMrush for $1.9 billion, which is one of the newer transactions at scale of some of these analytics platforms that were like part of my generation of coming up in the marketing world. I thought that was a big number for a platform like that. I don't know its user base, but I do know that Adobe destroys everything that it buys from a user's perspective. So that was kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised to see the number. I don't know a lot about the fundamentals of their business, but I obviously have used the tool for many, many, many years. Um, and I agree with you that, I'm not optimistic about what Adobe might do with it, but I was surprised to see them get bought out. Were they independent, like private independent, or were they owned by another company?
No, I do not think that they'd ever been purchased, like, or were part of anything else.
So
Um,
whoever built that one, they had a nice exit.
Yeah, no, I'm sure from a scaling perspective over time, and don't quote me on this because some companies have bucked that trend, that there's probably been a lot of investment in that. But I've never seen an opportunity to invest in SEMrush come across any of the middle market platforms unless I totally missed it.
Yeah.
So what I thought was interesting though is Adobe's statement was that they saw this as a way to bolt performance marketing and data tools directly into their creative clouds. And what I was thinking is, okay, and I maybe wasn't like, when I think about Wix buying Base 44, I see it as a play into the AI space, but still on the fundamentals of deployment of websites for businesses and applications. Like when I think about SEMrush and I think about Adobe's stack, right? Are they talking about, like, is Adobe Creative doing more in the web space than I thought, and that the analytics can help the performance of their deployed applications or deployed sites? I kind of missed how that connection happened.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's not clear to me. I know that, I'm sure SEMrush has AI capabilities, and
Yeah,
so
they
that
had rolled out recently, well, relatively recently, more tools. A lot of people in the SEO space or in the marketing analytics space are still kind of like in a shadowy area with measuring the performance of AEO or search that comes from the LLMs. And SEMrush had some measurement tools for. You notice how I'm speaking of them as if they died? I just can't help but do that because Adobe buying them was like the death of that platform, to me at
and
least.
and if
Um,
and if the acquisition is more of a data play for Adobe, then yeah, they may just be buying it for data purposes too, which
well, that would be nice.
you know,
Leave the platform alone. Don't roll it into your ridiculous contracts and subscriptions that make absolutely no sense. And just let it stand and then use that data. Because SEMrush does have like these premier data set of web analytics on the planet that I know of. All right. That was my recap of some of the big stuff I've been watching in the markets. I have not made any investments since I think move in on some of our portfolios was in October into
mhm,
some of the trades. A couple of them did not pan out. I have been watching on the rare earth side of things. Um,
mhm. It's kind of been
Man,
trading
numbers have come
sideways a
down
little
a
bit.
lot.
It came down a lot, and now over the past like 2 weeks, it's kind of just been trading sideways. Like I'm still watching MP Materials, and like they had a rough couple of weeks, and now they kind of seems like they've found a range of support in the mid 50s. Um,
They have, but the next leg down on them is around 35, 40.
hmm,
It's one of those things where I would almost only play back into these on a momentum swing to try to pull an uptick, but trying to buy them here thinking that this is kind of bottomed. If the AI trade rolls over again, they're going to get hammered.
yep. No, I mean I would wait for buying opportunity on these. I think long term, fundamentally, the business has some interesting things that could be growth catalysts, but the momentum is not in the trade right now. So I would wait. I would wait and see where the next leg down is.
Now there are, oh, go ahead.
No, I am looking to make some buys in the broader market though before the end of the year. Like whether it's index funds or something else, I am looking to put some money to work in the next 4 weeks. So
Now, my two favorite trades that I will probably go in and buy more of are the micro cap chip stocks. There were two that I like, Poet and GSI Technology. They both had unique perspectives and business models as it relates to AI chip manufacturing. I will have to look, well, I don't know, not necessarily manufacturing, but technology. I want to be careful how I say that. And I did buy a couple thousand shares of each only to watch them lose half their value. But I might double up on them because I still think that one of those two is the next $100 billion company. And they're both sitting, one sitting at a market cap of 200 million and the other one sitting at a market cap of 600 million. right?
Yeah.
They don't even have $1 billion market caps. So if they're $100 billion companies, I see them as one of those two will 100x from here. So I want to be in both of those to ride that.
Mm.
That's not financial advice. That's just what I'm doing in my own portfolio and in my family portfolios.
Well, Jim Cramer says he can't recommend Poet, so
I am buying more. No,
I
I
didn't
love
want to
Jim
be the one to
Cramer.
say it, but
I love him. I actually do. I know a lot of people talk crap about him. There's no way you can be online for 25 years doing a show like his and not be wrong every once in a while, right? If he was wrong 49% of the time, that's still better than almost any human being on this planet, other than like a Warren Buffett or something like that, because they
right.
cover 20 stocks on one show. It's so easy to pick on him for being wrong once in a while.
Yep.
Okay,
Right.
Richard, the best podcast lasts around 20, 25 minutes. We always talk for an hour. I don't care. I think we have 2 podcasts in one, so I'm cool with it. But do you have any final thoughts before we close out?
No, I mean, I'll be watching, heading into like the end of the year, I'll be watching any news around the Fed chair, looking for some buying opportunities, but that's it.
Perfect. And I think on my side, I'm watching what's happening with all of the mega financials acquiring all of the middle market players, because that loosening of retirement money to be able to put towards private markets, right? If you start seeing the big banks buying all the middle market players, you know that it's a foregone conclusion that the government is about to approve the ability to use 401k and retirement money to buy those assets. It's the only reason they'd be buying them. So
That's right.
I'm watching that and how that might play out. Why? I'm actually a pretty large investor in Start Engine, who has done absolutely nothing since I invested in it. And I would love to see something happening with that. Come on, Mr. Wonderful. You keep talking about all this stuff you're going to do with Start Engine. Get us sold. Get me paid. With that, we'll see you next week for the WealthWise podcast. Thank you so much.